Folks, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show. And we're here today with a shaman musician. My brother Dean, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show, my friend.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Can you talk a little bit about your education as it relates to music? I mean, would you say that it's been a completely street education, or did you go to school?
No, I didn't go to school, and yeah, I suppose it's a street education, as you say. Yeah.
Are you able to? I think more cats need that. What was your path? How did you start on that path on the street?
Well, with the didgeridoo, the first time I ever played was with a friend of mine that we made one together out of an agave, and when I finished it, I sat on the porch with him, and we just played together. He showed me how to circular breathe, and I didn't stop until I just got that circular breathing down, and I knew how to do it. And then from then on, it was just like riding a bicycle, It's funny because sometimes I think, I know how to play the didge, and then I go to play it and I'll realize there's subtlety to it. That sometimes if you're not careful with your breath, regulating it the right way, you run out of breath and you find yourself with that break in between where there's silence and you don't mean there to be. So I catch myself in that mode sometimes.
Is the didgeridoo a street instrument? I mean, it's not a classical, it's not made for, it's made for expansion. Is it an instrument that's made for the street?
I wonder, for a lot of cultures, and one we're most familiar with is, the indigenous people of Australia. But I believe that there's been many other cultures around the world that have had similar instruments. I think that Kokopelli character that we're familiar with in the Southwest is that character. It looks like he's holding a long flute, and people say that's a flute. I think it could be a didge because we have all these agaves in the Southwest, and those prehistoric people were pretty smart. And not only that, but there's instruments like that all around the world. In Tibet they have those traditional brass horns. Those really long horns are kind of like didgeridoos. And even in Ireland, my friend Serena was showing me a didge that she has. It's a replica of one from Ireland. I think it's called a dode. It's like a circular horn, but it's played just like a didge.
You have played in bands before?
Yeah, I have. I've played guitar and sung in bands before.
Have you been a band leader?
Yeah, I have. I've had a couple bands.
Can you talk a little bit about leadership on the bandstand? One of the 4 L's on my show is leadership, and I just wanted to know from you what you think the strongest qualities of leadership are. What's worked for you in the past as a leader?
Well, respect I think is key, and trust is key, and also having a vision, and not really pushing it too much. Being a leader, I think you need to be a channel for the vision and to be respectful of those who you're working with. So, as far as being in a band and being a leader in a band, I would write songs and I would present them to my bandmates. And first of all, I would try to start with humility in the songwriting itself, so that the song would come through to me in a pure way, in a strong way, and then so I present it to them, and in a fearless way. I think having courage and also being open to criticism and not allowing that to get you down. Those are all key elements, I think, in success.
You talked about like a defining moment in your career that you did define as success.
Yeah, I think a lot of musicians can relate to the fact that bands come and go, and they fizzle out. Some stand the test of time, and they're still around today after many, many years. But my experience has been, me and my bandmates would come and go and move on to other projects. But as far as to answer your question, stories of success, yeah, the bands that I have had with my friends were a lot of fun, and that's what it was all about. I wouldn't say we made a lot of money or put out a lot of
It was
albums.
the vibe.
Yeah, it was just the act itself of doing the music and playing shows and all that. That was success. Being able to just play shows for people. one after another. You know, that's success right there.
What kind of tours would you go? I mean, like what kind of circuit were you on, and what kind of music? I mean, is it all music to you, or are labels important to you?
Well, yeah, you know, I think labels can be important for sure. If you got a good thing going and you want to spread your music, yeah, for sure. People should be comfortable with having their name out there and promoting themselves. And as far as being in a circuit, I mostly just play music in Arizona, but a little bit in California. You know, we made a little tour out to California and played some music out there.
Please, the audience would love you to play a song. So if you're so inspired, please.
Oh yeah, I would love to.
Yeah.
Let me get on my guitar here. I thought that this singing bowl was the same note as this didgeridoo, a C sharp. I was hoping to take us into, into the realm of the root chakra, but then as I was playing this, I realized it's not a C sharp. It's a different one. I think it's just a C. So they didn't quite sound right like I wanted to do. But I hope I can redeem myself with some guitar.
We're already in a divine space.
All right, beautiful. All right. Oh, this song's called "When Bacchus Plays His Flute."
Did you work on your on the sound that? Were you more concerned with the sound that was coming out of your instrument before working on any kind of chops or facility?
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, you mean like first learning how to play guitar?
Well, what like getting a sound out of your amp and your guitar that you didn't have to throw up, you know, that you dug. You know, like that, as opposed to working on like a huge amount of improvisation scales and chops and things like that.
Yeah, you know, I think that's the first thing that a lot of people pay attention to when they're first learning an instrument is, you know, the sounds that are coming out of it. Yeah.
What were your intentions for getting into music?
just to follow a natural desire. You know, just hearing music as a child, you know, on the radio. I suppose I remember as a really young child just hearing music on the radio and being really drawn to that. I think, you know, some of the earliest music I remember hearing was Joni Mitchell on the radio just as a child, and just thinking, oh, that's so beautiful. I just love what she's doing with her voice and the guitar, and I wanted to learn how to you know, make music kind of like that on my own, just some simple singer-songwriter style songs on guitar and singing, you know.
You play to your strengths. I mean, that there was no real. Would that song essentially, like, in a live setting, open up and stretch out where you take a solo and take as many bars as you wanted, or are your songs generally compact, like lyric-based songs?
Yeah, they're pretty set in stone. You know, I kind of write them like poetry. A lot of my songs were born out of me just, you know, sitting down in my room, on my bed, and just in the morning time maybe, and just, you know, fiddling around with some chords and some vocal melodies, and then just tying it together and then writing the words out. You know, it really is just like the same format as like poetry in a way. I mean, as far as like there being, you know, verses and a chorus and all that. And so yeah, writing the words to the song, it's a story. You know, my songs are typically like stories, and the vocal melodies and the words are set in stone. So
we connected for the first time at Solar Culture the other night. I'm just curious about if you could talk about your motivation for doing that. I mean, off air we were talking about sound baths, and it does become a materialistic thing sometimes, and that's not what it's about for you. I mean, you want to connect people.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, as far as the sound immersion that we did, my vision is to just bring a lot of people together, to share that together, and there's a lot of power in that. You know, I think it's beautiful too when people can, you know, supplement their income by trying to make some good money on the side by offering their sound. You know, there's a lot of people around here that are doing like gong baths and other sound healing events that they do, and it's beautiful. I've been to a few, and there haven't been a lot of people, but that's the vision that I have, is just a lot of people coming together, and so I mean, I try to make it just donation based, and I'm glad that a lot of people came this last time. It's just like that feeling of community is really what I'm.
You're sixth generation Tucsonan.
Yeah, Arizona, yeah.
Arizona.
Yeah, that's right.
I found my voice here. I'm from New York, you know, but I'll never leave Tucson. I love it here so much, and the spirit is very strong here. Do you feel like the vibrations are stronger here? Have you been able to, when were you first able to tie into the vibrational nature of the state?
Oh, I mean, just as a child, I moved here when I was 9, but my ancestors settled different parts of Arizona, particularly like around Show Low, northern Arizona, and Mesa. And so I come from that lineage of like early pioneers that came here. And yeah, as a child, I really just tuned into the vibe of Arizona, just, you know, the expansiveness of the land and the feel of the desert is really a beautiful thing. And as a child, first moving here, I was kind of scared at first because I moved here during a monsoon storm in the summer, and I moved from near San Francisco, where I grew up till I was 9, and you know, coming from that ocean and then suddenly into this intense monsoon rainstorm. We were driving through northern Arizona, and lightning struck a pine tree and knocked it over into the road, and we couldn't cross the road, and there was this big tree trunk just smoking on the side of the road. And I remember thinking, I just want to go back to San Francisco, and the lightning kind of terrified me, and it took me a little while to really get comfortable with Arizona, and suddenly that desert magic really just kind of spoke to me and came alive. Once you adapt to the desert here, I think you're kind of initiated into the desert beauty, and it's hard to leave. You know?
Can you give an example of the magic?
Oh, just the tranquility of the desert. There's something about the vast openness and the broad horizons and the earthiness of, you know, the desert's not covered heavily in vegetation, which is a little bit different than a lot of land in the United States. A lot of the land in the United States is, you know, covered with vegetation, more green.
That's true.
And,
yeah.
Here in the desert, it's like it's more. You see more of the earth and more of the broad horizons and the sunsets. that sun energy is really magical, and the stillness of the desert nights, you know, the tranquility of the weather is pretty calm most of the time, you know. Then we get these sudden magical bursts of summer monsoon rain that are they just blow you away, you know. But outside of that, it's pretty tranquil and calm.
How well do you? I mean, because how did you connect with Serena? Serena is a homegirl of mine. She's a sister soul. How did you connect with her? Because like, there was a really beautiful showing there.
Yeah.
And it's not like you've been up. It's not like you set up shop here for. I mean, you just. When did you get it? You got here like.
It's November, so I've been here about 6 months now.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, what an amazing musician and amazing person she is. Yeah. But
did you catch her in L.A. or like somewhere else outside of Tucson when you
Flagstaff at the Firefly Festival, the music festival that was going on up there.
Firefly.
A few years back, maybe like 5 years ago or something. And it's funny, I don't remember even speaking any words to her, but she had her didgeridoo, and Kati had her didgeridoo, and I had my didgeridoo, and we all just kind of sat down and started playing together. And I don't think any words were spoken. And then here a few years later, being in the same town, you know, finally been able to catch up more and play some music with her. So that's, yeah.
And who was the other cat with you?
Kati.
Kati. I don't know Kati. She was beautiful too.
Oh yeah, an amazing artist. Her artwork is here in town. She painted that jaguar mural that's right there off of Tool. She runs the Galactic Center, which is part of Solar Culture Gallery.
I'm in my little hermetically sealed bubble. I'm trying to raise vibrations and enter the intergalactic. But Farmer Dave Scher is a good friend of mine. He's a sound healer out in Mar Vista, California. And like, do you feel that? Can you talk a little bit about the healing capacity of music? You can personalize it for your own being, or how it's manifested with patrons of the arts that you've seen been healed by it.
Yeah, you know, like with the didgeridoo and the singing bowls, they're I think really, really good examples of the manifestation of vibration. Now, you know, music is such an amazing thing because it's so tangible on an emotional level, but it's completely invisible. We can't touch it. We can't hold it. You know, we can't see it. But it's one of the most powerful things that there is, as far as, you know, being on an emotional level, and it can even go into more of a physical level too. When we do things like the sound immersion that we did the other night, where people lie down and they actually feel the energy of the instruments, like playing a didgeridoo over someone. I know that the indigenous Australian people have a long tradition of entering what they call dream time through the sound of the didgeridoo, and in their concept of dream time, that they believe their spirit actually leaves their body and travels into the earth, into energetic, you know, lines in the earth, and their soul travels in the earth in a kind of a dream state. And the didgeridoo kind of brings people more into that state of dream time.
Why is circular breathing? I talk about microdosing being very healthy for a lot of square cats, but circular breathing, I think, gives you you must feel pretty high after that.
Yeah, it's a great meditation, that control of the breath.
The meditation, thank you.
Yeah, both the control of the breath and also, and the feeling of the vibration and the sound of the vibration. It's a pretty good trio of healing all in one.
Can you play a little didge?
Yeah, I would love to.
Yeah, let's do it, baby.
So this didgeridoo is a C sharp. It's made out of a eucalyptus.
before you go, I'd just like you to talk about your concept of inner peace and how you try to affect positive change in your world.
Yeah, well, that's a very thoughtful question. I appreciate that. Yeah, I try to cultivate my inner peace by really trying to, I guess, align myself with the natural flow of the cosmos. I like to sun gaze in the morning and in the evening if I can. I really try to...
Can you break down sun gazing, though? I mean, just for the layperson?
Oh, yeah, so, not something to just do in the middle of the day. You don't want to just stare at the sun in the middle of the sky. Catch it in the morning before it rises, when you can allow your eyes to adapt to that first gentle light and catch it low on the horizon. And that's what I do. So I try to find it where it's going to rise on the horizon. And if you just stare at that spot, suddenly you'll see that spark and the sun will rise. And you can hold your gaze in that for a long time if you do it the right way. And for me, it really just is a deep meditation. It really takes me away. I feel like it kind of helps me tap into the greater cosmos. I feel like the energy is coming from a divine source. It comes from a further divine source, and so on and so on. And so that's part of one way that I try to cultivate peace in my life, is just aligning myself with the natural rhythms of our world and the cosmos. I try to eat healthy too, and also try to show kindness to people and patience towards people. I really just try to appreciate the natural beauty that is inherent in this material dimension at the same time. I think a lot of people kind of demonize or really kind of look negatively upon sensual pleasures, and I try to also honor that at the same time and use it for empowerment, So that's one way that I experience peace in my life too.
You've come back in this lifetime. What were you in previous lifetime?
I can't say I've had any really clear visions about.
Because you were talking about the going beyond, like it's not just one, it's beyond that and goes beyond that and goes beyond that. So the vibration continues to go farther and farther, the continuum.
Yeah. I think that the sun, to me, this is just kind of my own little personal revelation that I feel like I've had about the sun and our earth, is that the sun, to me, it seems like it's a fully awakened entity, like maybe even a fully awakened person has reached their highest potential and they become that star, and now they're experiencing this planetary system of their own, and we have this solar system of ours. It's a beautiful thing where we have this sun at the center and our planets revolving around it. It's almost like this company of individuals that have kind of, maybe they were like us at one time, and through multiple experiences of existence they've finally attained that full divinity, and now that's what they are, and they're moving on to other things too after that. This life of theirs is the sun and the earth, and it all eventually come back to itself and go somewhere else. And I think we're kind of on a similar journey,
Well, I'm going to do some sun gazing tomorrow, man. What time of day right now do you get that?
I wake up at 5:30, and that's a good time right now to catch it. Actually, maybe even a little bit earlier if you can, depending on where you're at. If you're where there's a mountain and the sun's going to rise behind the mountain, you got to be careful that it's not too high in the sky. You want to catch it low on the horizon. Otherwise, you can damage your eyes. You got to be careful, especially starting out.
Can we finish with a little of the bowl?
Sure.
All right, Dean Merrell, what an honor, man.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for inspiring. Jake Feinberg Show. Have a good night. Blessings.
Blessings.